Chosen one, stop right here. This moment is not an accident. Something divine has interrupted your routine, because heaven refuses to let you drift any longer. You are hearing this for a reason. The world may call it coincidence, but the heavens call it appointment. There is a stirring in your spirit that you can no longer silence. You have been asleep too long, numb to the call, distracted by noise, running from the voice that has been calling your name since before time began. You can feel it, can't you? The pull inside, the quiet ache that tells you there is more to your life than what you see. That ache is divine. It's heaven's reminder that you were never meant to live ordinary. You were set apart before the world knew your name. You are not here to blend in. You are here to awaken. The time for pretending you don't feel it has ended. Heaven has drawn a line in the sand. This is the moment of recognition, the moment of truth. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans of chapter 13, verse 11. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. You feel the weight of those words, don't you? The hour has already come. No more delay. No more waiting for the right time. This is your time. The reason this message found you now is because the clock in heaven just struck your awakening. Look at your life, the silence, the setbacks, the heartbreaks. They were never meant to destroy you. They were alarms, shaking you awake, preparing you for purpose. Every betrayal carved out the space for discernment. Every loss refined your faith. Every delay sharpened your patience. You thought it was punishment, but it was preparation. You were never forgotten. You were hidden, reserved for a moment such as this. You have carried more than most, endured storms that others couldn't survive. And yet here you are, still standing. That's not survival, that's prophecy. You are living proof that grace still fights for the chosen. You are the evidence that heaven invests deeply in those it intends to send. Every pain you felt was a divine classroom. Every tear you shed watered the soil of your destiny. And now, the seed that has been buried for years is breaking through the surface. Listen carefully, this message is not here to entertain you. It is a call to awaken, to reclaim your divine identity before regret writes the next chapter. Heaven does not repeat itself endlessly. There comes a time when silence becomes disobedience. You have been given too many signs to ignore this one. The trembling you feel now is your spirit remembering what your soul tried to forget. You are chosen. Many have been called, but few have answered. The distractions of this world have lulled millions into spiritual sleep, but you are not among them. You feel the tension between who you are and who you were pretending to be. That tension is holy. It is heaven's alarm clock ringing over your destiny. Wake up, chosen one. The voice that spoke galaxies into being is calling you by name. You have tried to fit in, to hide the fire within you, to silence the visions that came uninvited. But your calling will not let you rest. You have been anointed to disrupt darkness, to carry a sound that shakes atmospheres, to walk with authority in places that others fear to tread. The reason life has felt heavier for you is because your assignment carries eternal weight. Today, heaven stretches out its hand and says, choose life. Choose obedience over comfort, purpose over pleasure, destiny over delay. You are not being called to religion, but to relationship. This is not about joining something. It's about becoming who you already are. Your awakening begins the moment you decide to respond. So right now, as a prophetic act of agreement, type 777 in the comments. Not because of superstition, but because numbers speak in the language of heaven. It is your sign of alignment, your way of saying, I hear you, Lord. I choose life. Lord, If this word is stirring something deep within you, don't just feel it, act on it. Like this message to mark your decision. Share it so another hidden warrior can awaken. Subscribe to stay connected to this flow of divine truth, because what comes next will shift everything. The heavens have spoken, the time is now. You are no longer asleep, you are rising. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is awakening your purpose. The hour has already come. Step into it before regret becomes your companion. The call has been issued. Eternity is listening for your answer. Comment 777 below to declare your awakening. And from that moment onward, every sunrise will feel different, brighter, closer, alive. You will remember this day not as coincidence, but as covenant. The instant your spirit truly awakened to divine purpose, you have been marked by fire, even before your first breath. Heaven placed its imprint upon your soul. The world could not see it, but all of creation recognized the mark. That mark has drawn both favor and warfare to your life. You wondered why people turned against you without cause, why jealousy and misunderstanding followed you into every room. It was never personal. It was spiritual. The mark upon you identifies you as chosen, and darkness has always known it. Since childhood, something in you never fully fit. You could laugh, play, and move among others, yet still feel a quiet distance, as though your heart belonged to a world beyond sight. You carried questions that others never thought to ask. You sensed things before they happened. You saw truth in places where others saw coincidence. Those were not accidents. They were early signs of calling. The heavens were already training you to hear beyond the surface, to see through illusion. But the mark is costly. It separates you. It refines you. It makes your life a battleground between purpose and comfort. The fire that chose you has been burning away everything, false dreams you built on fear, relationships that could not endure truth, desires that chained your freedom. Each time you lost something that once defined you, it was heaven reclaiming what truly belonged to your identity. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last." This is why your path has never been random. You were chosen, not by chance, but by design. Every detour, every delay, every door that shut in your face was orchestrated by the same hand that marked you. Heaven does not waste the chosen. It prunes them for eternal fruit. You may have tried to hide the mark, to bury your difference under normalcy. Perhaps you even begged God to make you ordinary, to let you blend in. But heaven cannot unmark what it has chosen. The fire inside you refuses to die. You can silence your mouth, but your spirit still speaks. You can run, but the anointing follows. Like a shadow of flame, it moves where you move, waiting for the moment you stop resisting and finally surrender. This mark is not a burden, it is your identity. The battles you fought were proof of your spiritual inheritance. The loneliness you carried was the silence of consecration. You were being prepared in obscurity so that when your name is called, you will not crumble under the weight of visibility. Heaven protects what it plans to reveal. The hidden seasons were divine incubation, not rejection. When you thought you were being broken, you were actually being branded. Every scar became a seal of ownership, every tear another stroke of heaven's signature upon your spirit. That's why you feel things deeply, why injustice burns in your chest, why truth matters to you even when silence would be easier. The mark in you is allergic to compromise. It cannot rest in mediocrity. It demands integrity, holiness, and courage. You may not see it yet, but others sense it. When you walk into a room, atmospheres shift, not because you are loud, but because your presence carries unseen authority. The mark speaks before your mouth does. People either feel drawn to you or repelled by you, and that's how it's meant to be. Oil and water never mix, and the anointing upon you will always separate what's real from what's false. There will be moments when the mark feels like a curse, when you wish you could unsee what you've seen, unfeel what you felt. But in time, you will realize that what burns in you is not torment, it is destiny. The fire that refines you will one day ignite others. You are not called to be comfortable, you are called to carry flame. Remember this: every chosen one bears the imprint of divine fire, and that fire cannot be hidden forever. The same God who marked you will manifest through you. When the appointed time comes, your scars will speak louder than any sermon because they testify of survival, transformation, and grace. You are marked, not for pride, but for purpose. And though the fire has cost you much, it will also crown you. You will look back and see the pattern: every closed door, every broken plan, every silent night was divine choreography, arranging your steps toward the destiny only you could fulfill. The mark within you is awakening now, calling forth strength you didn't know you possessed. What once wounded you will become the weapon that wins battles for others. Heaven has not finished writing your story. The same fire that branded your soul will one day blaze from your voice, lighting paths for those still lost in the shadows. You have walked through the silent years, those long, hidden seasons when heaven seemed quiet and every prayer fell into the dark. You questioned if God had forgotten your name, if purpose had passed you by. Yet even in that stillness, He was shaping you. The silence was not absence, it was instruction. You were being tuned to hear the frequencies of heaven that ordinary ears could never catch. There were nights you stared at the ceiling, wondering why your heart hurt for reasons you couldn't explain. You watched others flourish while you fought simply to stay afloat. The world saw your stillness as stagnation, but heaven saw it as strategy. The soil must stay buried before it breaks open. You were never overlooked, you were being rooted. When nothing seemed to move, God was building endurance in you. When no one applauded, He was strengthening your motives. When doors stayed shut, He was protecting your purity. Those were the years of hidden molding, when you learned the sacred art of trusting without seeing. The waiting room of destiny feels like delay, but in truth it is the forge where strength is born. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in the book of Lamentations. Chapter 3, verse 25. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in Him, to the one who seeks Him. That verse is not passive comfort, it is divine revelation. Waiting on God is not standing still, it is moving in faith when everything else stands frozen. Hope itself is warfare against despair. In the quiet, your character was being tested. The silence revealed motives, purified desires, and uncovered idols. It taught you to pray without needing proof, to serve without needing spotlight, to love without needing reward. The hidden years stripped you of dependency on applause, leaving only the foundation of obedience. And that chosen one is where true anointing is born. You were not being punished, you were being trusted. God hides His greatest treasures in plain sight, wrapped in seasons of obscurity. If the world had recognized your worth too early, it would have mishandled you. That's why some opportunities never came, why some relationships never lasted. Heaven was protecting your timing, because purpose revealed too soon becomes premature destruction. Every tear that fell in that quiet season watered the soil of the promise. Every whispered prayer became the echo that will soon shape your miracle. You felt forgotten, but heaven was simply silent because it was writing. God writes in silence, he builds his strongest warriors in solitude. Now, the wind is shifting. The silence that once suffocated you is turning into clarity. You are beginning to understand why some things broke, why some doors stayed closed, and why certain people left. They were never meant to witness your unveiling. They were assigned only to your preparation. There is something sacred about the still years. They turn ordinary hearts into unshakable vessels. When you emerge, you carry weight. Your voice trembles the air because it was trained in quiet. Your confidence does not come from noise, but from knowing the God who spoke to you when no one else did. In those hidden years, heaven wrote your endurance into eternity. You became a secret weapon, sharp, silent, and unstoppable. The pain you endured has now become permission to speak with authority. You can now comfort the broken, guide the lost, and strengthen the weary because you have walked where they stand. The silence was never wasted time, it was sacred time. Heaven was chiseling your identity, teaching you how to remain faithful when no one clapped, and to stay focused when no one cared. What you thought was emptiness was actually incubation. The promise was alive all along, just unseen. And now that you understand, you stand at the threshold of transformation. You can sense that something is about to break open, not because the silence has ended, but because you have changed inside it. You no longer crave noise, you crave purpose. You no longer chase validation, you chase obedience. You have learned that God's silence never meant absence, it meant intimacy. Now lift your eyes. The time of unveiling approaches. The same silence that once broke you has built a voice that cannot be silenced again. Heaven trusted you with quiet so that the world could one day trust your sound. Type "I'm awake" below. Write it not for attention, but as a declaration of awakening. Each word says, "I understand now." It is your way of testifying that the silence has ended, that you have learned its lesson and reclaimed your fire. When others read those words, they will feel hope stirring again, the reminder that even in stillness, God is speaking. You have survived the silent year. The mark within you is glowing again. What was once hidden is about to speak. And when you rise from this silence, you will carry an authority born in fire and refined in stillness. Your voice will not echo, it will pierce, awakening dormant souls to remember who they truly are. When darkness recognized you, the war began. Long before you understood your purpose, the enemy saw the potential sealed inside you. The day you were born, light entered the battlefield, and hell took notice. Every storm, every betrayal, every attack on your confidence was not random, it was a reaction to your identity. You were targeted because you carry something eternal. The warfare surrounding your life has always been proof of heaven's investment. Before you could speak your name, your spirit carried a frequency that disturbed the realm of shadows. That's why rejection came so early, why loneliness became your companion, and why people sometimes recoiled without reason. The darkness could sense what you would one day become: a voice of light, a breaker of chains, a vessel of divine truth. Every spiritual wound you carry was formed in resistance to the radiance you hold. The Word of God declares in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." That is your reality. The battle has never been about people, positions, or possessions. It has always been about power, light versus darkness, truth versus deception. You stand as a collision point between realms, carrying divine DNA that terrifies the forces of hell. Every time you tried to rise, something unseen pushed back. Every time you started healing, an old wound reopened. You thought it was bad luck, but it was spiritual interference. Darkness is not threatened by the ordinary. It only resists what carries light. The storms you faced were not proof of weakness, they were proof that your breakthrough was near. You have to understand darkness always recognizes destiny before you do. That's why temptation came for you early. That's why counterfeit love arrived before real love. The enemy always tries to pollute the vessel before the oil can be poured. But you survived every trap, and that survival is your testimony. What tried to destroy you only revealed the strength heaven placed within you. You may not realize it, but every spiritual attack became training. You learned discernment through betrayal, endurance through pain, and wisdom through disappointment. You became stronger not because the fight was easy, but because the light inside you refused to die. Each time the enemy thought he buried you, heaven saw you planted. Each loss became a seed of resurrection. The darkness studied your weaknesses, but heaven wrote your destiny. The enemy counted your failures, but God numbered your days of victory. The battle has never been fair to him. You are backed by the authority of the one who already conquered death. The blood that covers you speaks louder than any curse, louder than any lie. Every sleepless night you endured became a night of revelation. Every tear you shed became language heaven understood. While others saw you struggling, the angels saw you transforming, so your suffering was never invisible. It was watched, measured, and transformed into strength. The attacks against you have been relentless because the anointing upon you is rare. You are not just chosen, you are dangerous to darkness. When you begin to understand this, your perspective changes. You no longer waste energy fighting people. You begin to confront the unseen forces that move through them. You stop reacting and start commanding. You realize that silence can be warfare, that prayer can be a weapon, and that forgiveness disarms the enemy faster than anger ever could. The shadows around you are not signs of defeat. They are signs that your light is expanding. Darkness only gathers where illumination threatens to break through. The pressure you feel is not punishment, it's prophecy. You are being forged into a warrior who carries peace, a messenger who carries authority, and a survivor who carries testimony. Do not despise the battle. It has made you unbreakable. Every fiery dart that missed you became a reminder that you are protected. Every scheme that failed became a prophecy fulfilled. Even now, as you read these words, heaven is reminding your spirit that the war is not ending. It is shifting. The enemy no longer fights to defeat you. He fights to distract you, because he knows he cannot destroy what God has already sealed. You are not cursed. You are called. And when you finally embrace that truth, the attacks lose power. You will look back and realize that what once terrified you now testifies of your resilience. You have outlasted the storm, outshone the darkness, and outlived the lies. The battle was proof of your identity. The resistance was evidence of your authority. And the fire that tried to consume you has only made your light impossible to ignore. And now, every scar glows like a seal of victory. The darkness that once pursued you now flees at your presence. You no longer fear the night you illuminated simply by existing. There comes a moment when heaven calls your name again, not in thunder, but in whisper. The divine recall is never loud, yet it carries more power than any storm. You feel it now, the gentle pull in your spirit, the undeniable urge to return to what has always been yours. You've wandered through shadows, learned through silence, and survived the fires meant to end you. And now, heaven stretches out its hand and says, "Come home to purpose." You can almost hear it, the sound of your own spirit answering. The old fears that once chained you no longer have the same hold. Something within you is beginning to rise. That's how divine recall works. It stirs the forgotten flame, reignites what sleeping seasons tried to bury. You are not being called back to religion, but to remembrance. The voice you hear is the same one that spoke your destiny before you took your first breath. The prophet Elijah spoke as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 12. And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. That whisper is calling your name now. It is not shouting, it does not demand. It simply invites. You can ignore it, but it will never stop loving you. The divine recall is not about shame, it's about restoration. It's the moment heaven says, I still want you. It doesn't matter how far you drifted or how deep you fell. The same God who marked you in light knows how to find you in the dark. You may have turned away, but he never turned his face from you. You see, divine recall is not a punishment, it's an embrace. It's the moment when grace meets exhaustion and whispers, rest here. It's when you realize that even your rebellion couldn't erase your calling. You are not being called back to rules, but to relationship, to alignment, to purpose. And yet, responding is a choice. Heaven never forces, it invites. That is the beauty of this call. It respects your will while reminding you of your worth. The voice of God never manipulates, it moves with tenderness. It doesn't pressure, it draws. You are free to ignore it, but you'll never forget it. Because once heaven calls you by name, the echo never fades. This is that moment, the gentle recall of destiny. Heaven is whispering through every word you read. It's as if eternity leans close and says, you have carried your pain long enough. Now, let purpose carry you. You can feel the crossroads beneath your feet. One path leads back to noise, to the endless cycle of striving and distraction. The other leads toward peace, the kind that doesn't demand explanation. One is familiar, the other is holy. Only one carries your name. And here's the mystery: responding doesn't require perfection. You don't need to have it all figured out. The divine recall is not about your readiness, it's about your response. All it takes is a quiet yes, a simple turning of the heart. The moment you whisper it, the heavens recognize it, and everything begins to realign. This, chosen one, is your moment of remembrance, like a spark returning to flame, like a river remembering its source. You are not coming back as who you were, you are returning as who you were always meant to be. Every mistake becomes part of your message. Every scar becomes a doorway for grace. And if you can feel that quiet invitation within you, honor it. You don't need to make a scene. You don't need to announce it to the world. Just breathe and let the yes rise naturally. That's how heaven measures surrender, not by volume, but by truth. Now, before this moment passes, I want you to mark it not as an act of obligation, but as an offering. Let your like be the lighting of a candle, soft, sincere, a symbol that the flame within you still burns. Let your share be the opening of a window, allowing light to spill into someone else's darkness. And let your subscribe be the planting of a seed, a promise that you will stay rooted where the voice of heaven continues to speak. No pressure, no demand, just presence. Because when your spirit responds in love, it aligns with heaven's rhythm. You are not performing, you are participating in divine remembrance. The call is still gentle, still patient, still waiting. And when you respond, something ancient in you exhales and whispers back, I'm home. You are the echo of every prayer whispered before your birth, the living proof that heaven remembers what earth forgets. Every step you take toward light rewrites the legacy of your lineage. The whisper will follow you gently, like wind tracing your name through time, reminding you that once you answered the call, eternity began to move in your favor. Every chosen one faces a moment when the storm becomes personal. You stand in the middle of chaos, unsure whether it's punishment or preparation. But heaven is never cruel, it refines, not destroys. This is that test before the rise. The winds that rage around you are not here to break you, they are here to reveal you. Every trial you've walked through has been a stage of molding, every tear a silent agreement with purpose. You are not being undone, you are being forged. There's something sacred about pain when you belong to heaven. It teaches what peace cannot. It builds strength that comfort never could. The fire that tests you is the same fire that crowns you. What you call suffering, heaven calls sanctification. You're not falling apart, you're being rearranged to fit divine design. We find in the book of James in chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." You've been walking through tests that seemed endless, yet every one of them has carried a hidden promise. The pressure wasn't to destroy you, but to prove what was already inside. Think of gold, its brilliance only appears when exposed to fire. You, too, have been placed in the furnace of transformation. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every heartbreak was a flame stripping away what could not follow you into destiny. And though it hurt, the result is purity. The reflection you see now is no longer fragile, it's fearless. You may not realize it, but heaven has been watching your endurance. When you stayed kind after cruelty, when you forgave after being wounded, when you prayed even with trembling faith, those moments shook the unseen realm. Angels recorded them as victories. You have already passed more tests than you know. This current storm is not evidence of failure. It's evidence of promotion. Before every elevation comes examination. The noise, the confusion, the moments where you question your worth, they are symptoms of transition. Darkness always howls before the dawn. You're closer to breakthrough than you've ever been, but the enemy will always scream loudest at the edge of your miracle. Don't mistake shaking for failure. Heaven shakes what it intends to settle. The structures of your old life are collapsing not because you are cursed, but because new foundations are being laid beneath your feet. The places where you once stood will no longer hold the weight of who you're becoming. Your calling demands endurance. Every chosen soul must learn the rhythm of resistance and rest. You can't carry light without learning to walk through shadow. And when the test seems unbearable, remember it's not meant to last forever, only long enough to reveal what's real. Sometimes the hardest part of the test isn't what you face, it's who leaves while you're facing it. People who can't handle your process will misjudge your pain, but that, too, is divine separation. God never lets everyone witness your becoming. He reserves that honor for those who understand holiness. Even now, in the middle of uncertainty, heaven whispers, "Hold fast." The storm is not the end, it's the announcement that resurrection is near. You are being shaped into something that fear cannot control, that failure cannot define, and that darkness cannot imitate. You are passing the test. Every moment you choose faith over frustration, you rise. Every time you refuse bitterness, you ascend. Every breath you take in surrender is a declaration that your spirit still belongs to light. This trial will not bury you, it will baptize you. You are stepping out of this fire glowing with purpose, clothed in authority, carrying wisdom that only scars can teach. You will speak from this season with a depth that shakes hearts awake. Now pause for a moment. Breathe. Let heaven see your response. Type 9999 below 3 numbers that carry the sound of completion. They are heaven's language, for it is finished. When you write them, you are declaring that the test has done its work, that the refining fire has fulfilled its purpose. It is not superstition, it is surrender. Those digits are a silent anthem, a way of saying, I am not what the trial tried to make me, I am what grace has formed in me. When others read those numbers, they will feel the echo of courage. They will recognize another soul who has passed through fire and come out shining. The simple act of writing 999 becomes your quiet proclamation that endings can be holy, that even the fiercest storm bows before transformation. The storm that came to scatter you has actually gathered you. You are being recalled, refined, and rebuilt. Heaven is watching the moment you emerge not as a victim of trials, but as a vessel of triumph. The voices of doubt have always followed the chosen. They whisper at the edges of your mind, questioning everything heaven ever affirmed. They sound like logic, like caution, like wisdom, yet their true purpose is paralysis. Doubt does not arrive as thunder. It arrives as suggestion, a quiet erosion of confidence, a subtle invitation to step backward when you were meant to rise. You've heard those voices before. They spoke through fear, through failure, through the opinions of others who could not see your calling. They told you that you were too broken, too late, too unqualified, too small. And for a time, you believed them. You believed that your pain was proof of abandonment, that your silence meant insignificance. But the truth is simpler the louder the doubt, the closer the destiny. The ancient words in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11 declare, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth, it will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." That promise is the antidote to every doubt. What heaven speaks cannot fail. Every prophecy over your life still carries breath, waiting for your agreement. Doubt thrives in delay. It feeds on the space between promise and fulfillment. The enemy knows he cannot cancel your calling, so he aims to corrode your confidence. He wants you to forfeit what cannot be stolen. But the same God who began the work is faithful to complete it. Even when you hesitate, heaven continues to build around your surrender. You have to learn to identify the tone of those inner voices. The voice of fear condemns, the voice of God corrects. Fear points at your past, truth points toward your future. Fear says you failed, but truth whispers you're learning. The difference is life itself. When you discern that difference, your spirit begins to breathe again. Sometimes the most dangerous voice is the one in your own head. The one that repeats every failure, amplifies every insecurity, and rehearses every rejection. It builds invisible walls that keep you from stepping forward. But those walls are illusions made of memory, not matter. You can walk through them the moment you decide to believe what heaven says about you. Doubt always speaks before destiny. Before every major turning point in Scripture, the chosen wrestled with disbelief. Moses said he couldn't speak. Gideon said he wasn't worthy. Jeremiah said he was too young. Even Peter, the rock, sank beneath waves of uncertainty. Yet every one of them rose again, not because they were fearless, but because faith eventually spoke louder. You, too, will learn that voice. It's quiet but steady, a whisper that cuts through the noise and says, "Keep walking." You'll hear it in sleepless nights, in the pause between tears, in the small victories no one else notices. That is the sound of faith mending itself within you. Doubt is loud, but destiny is persistent. When doubt tells you to stop, remember how far you've come. Look at the storms you survived, the nights you thought would never end. You didn't make it this far by accident. You made it because something eternal refused to quit inside you. The same power that sustained you yesterday still carries you now. Sometimes faith doesn't look like shouting. It looks like breathing. It looks like standing still when fear demands you run. It looks like getting up again after another fall, brushing off the dust and whispering, "I still believe." Heaven records those whispers. Angels move at the sound of persistence. You don't have to silence doubt completely, you just have to starve it. Feed your faith with remembrance. Recount every answered prayer, every unexpected mercy, every time light found you in darkness. Testimony is the antidote to fear. When you remember what God has done, you remind the atmosphere who is truly in control. There will always be voices that question your worth, but only one voice defines it. That voice does not fluctuate with your performance. It flows from eternal love. Even when you fail, that love calls you forward. Even when you break, it rebuilds you in tenderness. You are not losing ground, you are learning how to stand. And when the voices rise again, as they surely will, lift your head and recall this truth. Doubt is not a sign that faith is dying. It's proof that faith is still fighting. The battle in your mind is not the end of belief, it's the beginning of clarity. You were chosen, and heaven's word concerning you will not return empty. Every time you choose trust over hesitation, light wins another inch of territory inside you. The voices may whisper, but they will not prevail. For even in uncertainty, your spirit knows the way home. And when silence follows the storm, you will hear it the still, small assurance that you were never alone. Faith will rise again, steady and quiet, like dawn unfolding over the ruins of yesterday. There are moments when the air itself feels heavy with decision, when every path ahead demands more than your strength can give. This is the crossroads of obedience. Heaven does not always shout direction. Sometimes it waits in silence, watching which way your heart leans. You stand between the known and the divine unknown, between safety and surrender. It is here that obedience is no longer theory. It becomes proof. You have prayed for signs, for confirmation, for the voice to be unmistakable. But God often hides instruction within conviction, not comfort. Obedience begins where clarity ends. When you cannot see the next step yet still move forward, that is faith breathing through your body. That is love expressed in trust. The voice of God thundered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 33. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess. That command was not threat, it was invitation. Heaven never demands submission to diminish you, it invites obedience to expand you. Every command is a doorway. Every act of surrender is a seed that grows into destiny. You are being asked to choose now, not between good and evil, but between comfort and calling. One road will feel safe but small, the other will stretch your soul. And in that stretching, something divine will awaken. You will discover that obedience does not cost freedom, it reveals it. Every chosen one has stood where you stand. Abraham walked without a map. Ruth followed a whisper into a foreign land. Mary accepted a purpose that defied explanation. They all reached the same conclusion: obedience rarely makes sense at first, but it always makes history. You've been conditioned to equate obedience with loss of control, of identity, of desire. Yet what you truly lose is illusion. The moment you obey, the fog begins to lift. Fog. The things you thought were holding you together are revealed as chains. The very command you feared becomes the key. Obedience is not the end of questioning. It is the beginning of trust. It transforms faith from belief into movement. Heaven will not always hand you the full picture. It will give you a single word, a single nudge, a single step. And when you take that step, the next unfolds. Light reveals itself progressively to the willing heart. There will be hesitation, of course. The enemy will whisper that obedience is too costly. He will remind you of what you might lose, but never of what you'll gain. He knows that obedience is a doorway to authority. Every yes you give weakens his hold. Every surrender expands your territory in the spirit. Sometimes obedience feels like walking off a cliff until you realize you were meant to fly. What if the risk is not in obeying, but in delaying? Every postponed step is borrowed time from purpose. Heaven's timing is mercy, but mercy is not endless. There comes a moment when hesitation becomes disobedience. That's why obedience must be immediate. It keeps the fire burning while faith is fresh. You will know it's time to move when peace begins to feel heavy instead of holy. When staying still starts to suffocate the very dream you once prayed for. That pressure you feel now is not punishment, it's divine urgency. The Spirit is stirring, aligning circumstances, waiting for your agreement. If obedience feels terrifying, remember this: God never asks for surrender without promising presence. When He commands, He accompanies. When He leads, He lights the way. You will never obey alone. Every step of trust draws angels nearer, strengthens your discernment, and widens the horizon of your faith. This crossroads is sacred. It's where purpose is proved and destiny begins to unfold in real time. Heaven is not measuring your success, it's watching your surrender. The weight you feel is not doom, it's destiny leaning on you. You were chosen to model courage in a generation that worships comfort. Your yes will unlock what fear has held hostage. Soon, you will look back and see that obedience was never about restrictions. It was the beginning of release. The more you obey, the more you become yourself, and the closer you follow, the clearer the path becomes. Heaven never wastes a willing heart. It multiplies it. So here you stand between what you know and what you're called to. You can't stay where you've been, and you can't rush where you're going. All you can do is breathe, listen, and move when the whisper says now. Because in that single step, the entire universe shifts to meet you. Obedience may cost your comfort, but it will crown your calling. And once you take that step, you will understand every divine command is not a burden, it's a bridge. And on the other side of that bridge, peace will greet you, not the fragile kind that fades, but the fierce stillness of one who finally walked where heaven waited. There is a moment when heaven stops observing and begins to release. You feel it before it happens. The weight in your chest changes from pressure to power. This is the moment of the mantle. It does not arrive wrapped in ceremony. It descends quietly, like fire choosing its vessel. You are standing in that moment now. The mantle of power is not earned through ambition. It is entrusted through surrender. It rests only on those who have been emptied enough to carry it. You cannot fake the weight of glory. It recognizes its own. Every tear you have shed, every night you've survived, every test you've endured has prepared the soil of your soul for this mantle. Heaven does not waste suffering, it turns it into strength, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 15. The company of the prophets from Jericho who were watching said, "The spirit of Elijah is resting on Elisha. So it is with you. The mantle is passing." The same power that once rested on others now searches for a heart that has learned obedience in silence. The same fire that burned on their altars is now ready to ignite yours. You have walked through the valley, climbed the unseen mountain, and waited through long nights of stillness. Now heaven prepares to place what once seemed impossible upon your shoulders. The mantle is more than gifting, it is responsibility. It does not elevate, it empowers. It does not make you superior, it makes you accountable. When the mantle comes, it demands humility. It carries weight that pride cannot sustain. To wear it is to live with awareness that your life no longer belongs solely to you. Every word you speak, every action you take carries eternal consequence. The anointing does not come to entertain crowds, it comes to break chains. The mantle has memory. It remembers every prayer whispered in faith, every moment you resisted compromise, every time you obeyed when it hurt. It chooses those who have proven faithful in the unseen. You are being entrusted because you have endured. Heaven is declaring, this one has been tested in fire and found ready. Feel it now, something in you is shifting. The same power that raised the prophets, the apostles, the reformers of history, it breathes through your bones, not to glorify you, but to extend the legacy of light through you. You are becoming a continuation of divine purpose. But before you stretch your hands to receive it, remember the mantle will cost you the right to quit. Once you carry this, you can't go back to pretending you don't know. The call will burn in your spirit like an unquenchable flame. You will speak truth even when silence would be safer. You will love when hatred would be easier. You will stand when others bow to convenience. Power without purity is poison, but power forged through obedience becomes healing. That is why heaven waited until now. You had to be emptied of ego so that glory could flow untainted. You had to learn compassion through pain, discernment through delay, and courage through rejection. Now you are ready to hold what others dropped. Do not expect applause when the mantle comes. Many will not understand you. Some will withdraw. Others will misread your silence as pride. But remember, mantles are not designed for approval but for impact. You are being called to walk with authority that may isolate you. Yet in that isolation, heaven walks beside you. You are not just receiving power, you are becoming a vessel of presence. When you speak, truth will travel farther than your voice. When you pray, atmosphere will bend. When you move, chains will break. That is the nature of the mantle. It magnifies heaven's sound through human vessels. There will be days when you feel unworthy, and that is good. It keeps you dependent. The mantle rests best on shoulders that remember they are dust. Your strength is not the source, it's the surrender. Every time you yield, the power flows purer, clearer, stronger. Right now, the heavens bear witness. The mantle of power is near hovering, waiting for your full consent. Not a whispered maybe, but a resounding yes that echoes from your spirit. It is not given to those who chase it, but to those who are still enough to catch it. So as a sign of agreement, type I receive below, not for show, but as a sacred signature. When you write it, you mark this moment in eternity. It's a declaration that you are ready to carry what heaven trusts you with. Ready to walk not in your own strength, but in divine authority. Those 3 words are not mere letters, they are covenant. The mantle is resting. The air is thick with purpose. And in the unseen, angels step closer, recognizing that another light bearer has answered the call. You are not who you were. You are who heaven always knew you'd become. There comes a sacred season when separation is not loss, it is alignment. You begin to see that everything fading from your life was never meant to stay. This is the season of divine pruning, the separation before elevation. The same hand that blessed you now removes what cannot go where you are going. It may hurt, but it is holy. Every departure is direction. Every closed door is mercy disguised. You have prayed for new seasons, But newness always requires release. To step into destiny, you must travel light. God will never let you carry the weight of what was into the place of what will be. Relationships, habits, even dreams that once felt sacred may suddenly feel heavy. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's according to what is revealed in the book of John, chapter 15, verse 2. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. That is not cruelty, it's cultivation. The gardener is never wasteful. He cuts only to make room for abundance. The pain of pruning is temporary. The beauty that follows is eternal. There was a time when you begged God to protect what you're now relieved to let go of. That's how growth works. It changes your appetite. The things that once fit your heart no longer do because you've outgrown them. Heaven is stretching your capacity, preparing your spirit to hold more light, more wisdom, more authority. Separation is a sacred signal. When people walk away, when plans collapse, when paths suddenly divide, heaven is not punishing you, it's positioning you. Every removal is protection in disguise. What you call endings, heaven calls evolution. But separation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. The conversations fade. The interests shift. The alignment breaks without argument. And in that stillness, something divine begins to breathe again. Your focus returns. Your peace grows roots. You begin to see that solitude was never empty, it was preparation. The enemy will try to use separation to whisper loneliness, but God uses it to reveal strength. You will discover that you were never alone, just surrounded by noise. Now, in this silence, heaven has your full attention. When everything feels like it's falling apart, it's actually falling into place. You are being sculpted by invisible hands, shaped for a destiny too weighty for ordinary attachments. The pruning you feel is proof of fruitfulness. God only prunes what he intends to prosper. You may look back and mourn what's gone, but one day you will thank him for every goodbye that saved your future. The people who left were part of your story, not your ending. The chapters they occupied were necessary, but the narrative continues without them. You are not losing. You are being liberated. The path of the chosen is narrow, not because God withhold, but because purpose requires focus. You can't carry everyone or children, and you're not meant to. The call is heavy enough. Every time you let go of what hinders, you make room for what heals. Every surrender clears the air for divine encounters. And now, as the separation settles, peace begins to bloom again. You feel it, the lightness in your spirit, the clarity in your steps. You understand that letting go is not failure, it's faith in motion. You are trusting the unseen hand that cuts only to cultivate, that removes only to renew. If your heart feels this truth, mark this moment in your own way. Let your like be a leaf falling gently from an old branch, soft, silent, necessary. Let your share be the wind carrying that leaf to another soul ready to release. And let your subscribe be the seed buried in new soil, waiting patiently for its spring. Each act, though small, becomes an echo of surrender. It is not performance, it is participation. You are aligning your will with heaven's rhythm, turning a digital act into a spiritual metaphor. You are saying, without words, I am ready to bloom where God plants me next. Do not resist this pruning. It is the rhythm of resurrection. When God removes, he always replaces. When he takes, he intends to multiply. And when he cuts, he is crafting your crown. So breathe deeply. The separation is sacred. The pain is passing. And the beauty that's coming will make sense of every empty space left behind. You will see it soon, the proof that release was protection. Every door that closed will echo with gratitude as new paths open where walls once stood. Nothing lost, only transformed. Even silence will bloom again, carrying the scent of renewal. The pruning will reveal hidden fruit, the kind that only grows in surrendered soil watered by faith. And when you finally look back, you'll smile at what once hurt, realizing that heaven never subtracted it, refined, redesigned, and returned everything multiplied in grace. There are seasons when the weight of glory feels almost unbearable. It presses against your chest, stretching your spirit until it trembles. This is not punishment. It is preparation for revelation. You are standing beneath the weight of glory, the same radiance that once rested upon mountains, prophets, and temples. It does not come to crush you, but to confirm you. You are being trusted with presence. When the glory of God draws near, it doesn't arrive with applause, it arrives with stillness. The air thickens. Time slows. The ordinary fades beneath the weight of eternity pressing gently upon your soul. You realize that this power is not external, it's awakening within you. The same light that created galaxies now burns quietly behind your eyes, asking only that you carry it with reverence. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Every hardship, every lonely night, every battle that scarred your heart was not in vain. Each became a vessel through which glory could dwell. The heavier the burden, the greater the brilliance that follows. The weight of glory is never comfortable. It will isolate you because not everyone can carry what you're being asked to hold. It requires purity of motive and clarity of heart. It strips away pretense and ego, leaving you raw but real. You cannot fake this fire, it recognizes its own reflection. Sometimes glory looks nothing like triumph. It looks like tears in hidden places, forgiveness when bitterness would be easier, obedience when logic says no. It is seen in the quiet victories that heaven celebrates even when earth overlooks them. Glory manifests most brightly through humility. You may wonder why the closer you draw to God, the heavier life feels. That is because glory reveals what flesh hides. It exposes the cracks in your foundation, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. God is fortifying your character to match your calling. You cannot carry eternal things with temporary strength. So he stretches you, deepens you, matures you. Every time you feel the invisible weight pressing on your soul, remember it is the touch of transformation. The same presence that convicts also comforts. The same light that reveals your flaws also radiates healing. You are not breaking down, you are expanding. Glory enlarges what it inhabits. Do not be surprised if solitude becomes sacred again. The presence of glory demands space. Crowds distract. Silence refines. Heaven does its deepest work away from applause. The greater the assignment, the quieter the process. God hides his glory in simplicity because only the humble can recognize it. When glory rests upon you, the atmosphere around you changes. People may not understand why they feel peace when you enter a room, why their hearts soften, why tears fall without reason. It's because you carry a frequency that transcends words. The world calls it charisma, but heaven calls it consecration. This weight is not a burden to escape, but a gift to steward. The more you yield, the lighter it becomes, and when the moment you resist, it presses harder. Not in anger, but in love, reminding you that this power must flow, not stagnate. You are a conduit, not a container. Glory that stops moving begins to fade, but glory that flows through you multiplies. And yet, there will be moments when you long for normalcy again. You will miss the simplicity of not being seen, of not being called upon. But the glory has already chosen its home. Once it rests upon you, you can never unfeel it. Every mundane moment becomes holy. Every breath becomes worship. The weight of glory transforms everything it touches. You will speak differently, love differently, and walk differently. Your presence will carry unseen authority. People may not know why they listen, but their spirits will. Glory speaks beyond language. In this season, you are not being crushed, you are being crowned. The heaviness you feel is heaven clothing you in significance. The invisible mantle of glory is forming around you, fitting perfectly with the scars and victories that shaped you. So when the pressure grows, do not run. Let it rest upon you. Breathe beneath its brilliance. It will not break you, it will build you. And one day, when others see light reflecting from your life, they will know this is what glory looks like after fire. You will carry that light into places where hope has died. And simply by standing there, the atmosphere will shift. The glory within you will speak louder than any sermon ever could. In time, you will realize the weight was never meant to crush but to crown you, each pressure, each tear, shaping you into the reflection of divine endurance and endless grace. The covenant call is not an echo from the past. It is the voice of eternity reaching into your present. It is not a suggestion, it is a summons. You have heard it in dreams, in songs, in moments of stillness that pierced your soul. It is the whisper that will not be silenced, the pull that never fades. Heaven is calling you into agreement, and this time, it cannot be ignored. A covenant is not like a contract made by men, it is sacred, sealed in spirit, bound by purpose, and witnessed by eternity. When heaven makes a covenant, it's not asking for perfection, it's asking for partnership. It's an invitation to walk hand in hand with destiny, to align your steps with divine rhythm, and to live not merely for survival, but for significance. The voice of God declared in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. That promise is not ancient, it is active. You stand as part of that lineage of faith, called to renew a covenant written in light long before your arrival. This call is not about rules, it's about remembrance. You are being asked to remember who you were before fear took your confidence, before disappointment built walls around your heart. Heaven remembers you, not the version molded by pain, but the one designed in glory. The covenant call is heaven's way of saying, come back to the truth of your creation. Responding to this call means surrendering everything that divides you from purpose. It means choosing alignment over comfort, obedience over logic, and destiny over delay. You cannot bargain with this voice. It will keep returning until your heart finally says yes. And when you do, the world around you will begin to change. The covenant call is not loud. It moves like wind through trees, soft yet unmistakable. It doesn't command, it compels. It touches your soul in a way that feels both terrifying and tender. You know it's real because ignoring it only deepens the ache. That ache is not emptiness, it's recognition. Your spirit knows the sound of home. Some resist this call out of fear. They worry it will cost too much, that surrender means losing themselves. But covenant never takes, it multiplies. It transforms sacrifice into strength and obedience into overflow. Everything you release for God's will becomes seed for a greater harvest. Right now, heaven leans close again. The call is not for your perfection, it's for your participation. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to say yes. The moment you do, you cross a threshold where grace takes over and human effort gives way to divine empowerment. Pause here and listen. Can you feel it? That quiet pulse in your spirit? That's not emotion, that's confirmation. Heaven is waiting for your response, and when you respond, something ancient stirs. Promises made before time itself begin to awaken. So as a sign of your agreement, type 444 below. This number carries the vibration of divine covenant, Father, Son, and Spirit in perfect unity. Multiplied by creation's completion, it symbolizes stability, foundation, and heavenly alignment. When you write it, you are saying, I choose to stand under heaven's order. I accept the call, not as obligation, but as devotion. Let those digits become your signature in eternity's ink, a silent yes that shifts the unseen. This covenant will not break, because it was never built on your strength but on His faithfulness. You may falter, but the call remains. You may wander, but the grace that summoned you will always find you again. The covenant call is not for the faint, it's for the faithful. And now, heaven bears witness, another heart has remembered. Type 444 below. When you write it, do not see it as digits but as declaration. Each 4 is a pillar: faith, obedience, love, and endurance, 4 foundations that hold every covenant steady. The act is quiet, yet the heavens take note. Angels lean in when you choose agreement over hesitation, when your simple response becomes a sacred yes. 444 is not magic, it is memory. It reminds your soul that covenant is relationship, not ritual. It says, I align again with the one who called me. When your fingers type it, your spirit echoes. I belong to purpose. In that moment, the atmosphere shifts. What was delayed begins to move. What was unclear begins to unfold. Each number carries sound. Together, they sing harmony between heaven and earth, a trinity multiplied, completeness squared. You are joining that song, letting your heart hum in rhythm with eternity. The unseen becomes aware another covenant bearer has risen. So type it gently. 444. Your yes carved into time. It is the whisper of a promise kept, the symbol of a soul fully awake to divine partnership. There comes a time when what was hidden must be revealed. The prophetic unveiling is not the arrival of something new. It is the exposure of what has always been present, waiting for the right light to be seen. You are standing in that light now. What once seemed dormant within you begins to stir. The veil between promise and manifestation grows thin. This is not imagination, it is revelation. Heaven is lifting the curtain. For years, you have carried glimpses of who you are, moments when truth flashed through confusion, when destiny brushed your shoulder and disappeared again. You thought those were coincidences, but they were glimpses of prophecy. The glimpses were never lies. They were previews of your future self. Every whisper, every dream, every divine interruption has been pointing toward this moment, the unveiling of identity. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, saying, For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. You have reached that appointed time. The waiting has ripened. The words once spoken over your life are now maturing into form. What heaven has declared is beginning to manifest in visible ways. The unveiling is not about fame, it's about function. Heaven reveals purpose when the heart is finally ready to carry it. If the light had come too soon, it would have blinded you. Now it will guide you. Every hidden season, Every quiet year of discipline has prepared you for this clarity. You are beginning to see yourself as heaven has always seen you, not as a survivor of pain, but as a steward of power. The unveiling brings alignment. It reconciles what you believe with what you've become. The gap between promise and personhood closes, and you realize that destiny was never distant. It was buried inside you all along. Yet revelation always arrives with responsibility. To see is to be accountable. When truth unveils itself, excuses can no longer stand. The light does not only reveal calling, it exposes compromise. That is why the unveiling feels both beautiful and unsettling. It strips illusion from identity. You begin to recognize which parts of your life were built by fear and which were shaped by faith. You may notice people drifting away, systems collapsing, routines losing meaning. Do not panic, this is purification. The unveiling rearranges everything that cannot sustain truth. It removes false alignments and magnifies divine ones. Some connections will strengthen because they were ordained. Others will fade because they were seasonal. The clarity you feel is not loss, it's liberation. Revelation never arrives empty-handed, it always brings movement. The unveiling calls you to act on what you now see. The purpose of revelation is transformation. It demands that knowledge become obedience, that understanding becomes motion. Heaven does not reveal for entertainment, it reveals for activation. And this unveiling will not just show you who you are, it will expose what surrounds you. You will discern motives, sense atmospheres, feel truth vibrating through silence. Your spirit will no longer tolerate what contradicts its calling. That is how you will know you've changed. Peace will feel expensive, and compromise will feel impossible. Do not shrink from this clarity. You were made for it. Many crave revelation, but few are ready for its cost. Seeing what others cannot means feeling what others ignore. But you are ready. The unveiling confirms maturity. Heaven trusts you now with sight. As this revelation unfolds, you will begin to see divine patterns everywhere. The same signs that once confused you now make sense. Delays reveal order. Detours reveal protection. Every unanswered prayer begins to form a pattern of preparation. The design of your destiny emerges from the chaos that once blinded you. You are the unveiling living prophecy in motion. The words once written about you are becoming flesh through your obedience. What was promised is manifesting. What was hidden is rising. And as you step forward, the atmosphere around you will respond. Darkness retreats not because you fight it, but because truth has finally taken form in you. This is the hour when revelation becomes reality. You are no longer searching for signs, you have become one. You will walk with eyes newly opened, seeing divine fingerprints in places once overlooked. Every moment will hum with meaning, every breath carrying the quiet rhythm of revelation fulfilled. The unveiling will not end here, it will expand, layer upon layer until truth becomes your natural language, your every step a declaration of clarity. And when others behold you, they will sense not pride, but peace, the serenity of one who has finally remembered who they truly are in light. And from this point on, every sunrise will feel like confirmation, the world no longer a mystery, but a mirror reflecting heaven's design through you. Revelation has settled. You have become its living proof. The war in the heavens has always been real, though most never see it. It is not fought with swords of metal, but with choices, with words, with love defying hatred. The unseen realm moves when faith speaks, when a heart refuses to surrender to despair. You, chosen one, are part of that war, not as a victim caught in crossfire, but as a warrior clothed in light. Every conflict in your life mirrors a battle already raging beyond sight. The pressure, the resistance, the sudden storms, they are not random. They are reflections of spiritual tension, proof that your destiny has weight in the unseen. When you feel everything rising against you, it is because heaven has marked your movement. The enemy attacks what he fears, and what he fears most is your awakening. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 18, verse 39. You armed me with strength for battle. You humbled my adversaries before me. This is not poetic imagery. It is divine truth. Heaven equips before it sends. You have not been thrown into war unarmed, you were designed for it. Your prayers are not whispers, they are weapons. Your worship is not sound, it is strategy. There are angels who have walked beside you unseen, bearing the assignments that your obedience unlocked. Every time you chose love when anger seemed justified, they advanced. Every time you forgave instead of fought, light expanded its territory. Spiritual warfare is not about shouting at darkness, it's about outshining it. You win not by might, but by presence. Still, there are moments when the battle feels relentless, when hope flickers like a dying flame, when even prayer feels heavy. Those are the moments that define you. The heavens are never quiet, they are listening, waiting for the sound of resilience. When you whisper faith into fear, when you declare peace into chaos, heaven hears the thunder of your courage. You may not always feel victorious, but your endurance is already victory. Every time you rise again, darkness loses ground. The enemy does not fear perfection, he fears perseverance. A soul that refuses to give up becomes unstoppable. Look closer at your journey. The times you thought were random breakdowns were actually coordinated breakthroughs. Every disappointment rerouted you toward destiny. Every delay protected what could not survive premature exposure. The war was never against you, it was for you, to awaken the power already living inside. You have been trained through trial, sharpened through sorrow, strengthened through surrender. The scars you carry are not signs of defeat, they are medals of survival, proof that you have fought battles unseen and lived to testify. The world may never understand the wars you've endured, but heaven does. Every tear you shed was a signal, every sigh was a prayer, and now the tides are turning. The war in the heavens is entering its next phase, not of destruction, but of declaration. Light is reclaiming territories long held by despair. Every time a chosen one stands firm, another gate of darkness collapses. You are part of that collapse. Your faith shakes structures built on lies. This is why your spirit has felt heavy. The shifting of realms is not subtle, it echoes through the body, the mind, the heart. You feel the tremors of transformation because you are positioned on holy ground. Do not mistake the pressure for punishment. It is the sound of chains breaking across dimensions. And yet, amidst the clash, there is peace. Because this war is already won. The outcome was decided long before your first breath. You are not fighting for victory, you are fighting from it. The cross sealed it. The resurrection confirmed it. Every battle now is simply the unfolding of what heaven already declared. So hold your ground. When fear whispers, let faith roar. When shadows rise, let your light answer. You are the embodiment of divine resistance, the proof that grace still reigns. The war in the heavens is fierce, but so is your destiny. You were not chosen to watch, you were chosen to withstand. And though the clash continues, the end has already been written, light wins always. When the heavens wage war, the sound of your faith becomes part of their rhythm. Every breath of trust, Every quiet act of hope strengthens the armies of light standing unseen around you. You were never an observer of this conflict. You were the answer heaven released into it. You are a living decree that darkness cannot have the final word, not over your life, not over this generation. Even when exhaustion settles like fog, remember, rest itself is resistance. To sleep in peace while storms rage is to declare that God's victory is certain and fear has lost authority. The war continues, but you are no longer trembling, you are radiant. Every step you take glows with divine assurance. Every heartbeat echoes with prophecy fulfilled. The light is winning through you. Mercy does not knock forever. It lingers, waiting, reaching, but there comes a moment when grace stops repeating what you already know. That is this moment. The final warning does not come with thunder or fire, it comes with tenderness. Heaven stands before you, not angry, but aching. The door of mercy is still open, but it will not stay open indefinitely. You have felt the pull, ignored the signs, silenced the whispers. Yet still, the voice of love calls. The final warning is not a threat, it's an invitation. It's the heartbeat of a father who refuses to lose his child. It's the sound of heaven saying, "Come home before the lights dim." The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 16. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. You are standing at that crossroads now. The good way still stands open, even if your feet have wandered. Heaven has not written you off, it is still writing you in. But time, chosen one, is sacred. Each breath is a gift, and every delay risks dulling the voice that calls you. Mercy is not weakness. It is strength restrained by love. It waits, but not without limit. Heaven offers chance after chance because it knows your potential, your purpose, your power. Yet the window that opens to release blessing can also close if neglected. The final warning is not punishment, it's protection. It's heaven pulling you from the edge before blindness takes hold. There are moments in life when everything pauses, when you know something eternal is being decided. This is one of those moments. The Spirit is near, not as judge, but as witness. The air thickens with holiness. The unseen holds its breath, waiting for your response. You have carried burdens long enough. You have played tug-of-war with grace, promising change but fearing surrender. Yet peace does not come through promises, it comes through obedience. You already know what needs to be released, what needs to end, what must begin. The warning is not new, it's confirmation. Heaven is not angry, it is urgent, because you are one decision away from the life you were meant to live. One step away from restoration. One heartbeat away from peace that never leaves. The final warning exists because heaven refuses to give up on you. So pause, breathe, and listen not to the noise of regret, but to the whisper of mercy. It's softer than guilt, stronger than shame, and closer than your breath. It says, choose life, choose light, choose me. If this word touches something deep inside you, don't rush it. Let your heart feel it. Let your spirit remember. And when you're ready, mark this moment not for performance, but for permanence. Let your light be a candle lit at the edge of night, small, trembling, yet powerful enough to remind darkness that hope still breathes. Let your share be the wind that carries that flame farther, touching unseen hearts with warmth they thought was lost. Let your comment be a drop of ink on eternity's page, a quiet proof that someone heard and answered the whisper. And let your subscribe be the planting of a seed in holy soil, a promise that you will return. Water it and watch it bloom. Do it not because you must, but because you want to. Acts born of love echo louder than acts born of fear. This isn't about algorithms or numbers, it's about remembrance. Each gesture becomes prayer when done with intention. Each motion becomes meaning when touched by sincerity. The warning has been given, not as condemnation but as calling. The fire you feel is not judgment, it's invitation. The door remains open and the father still waits on the porch, watching for the outline of his child returning through the dusk. Take this moment as sacred. Let your response be gentle but real. Heaven sees even the smallest yes. And when you choose it, everything shifts. The heavens rejoice. The shadows retreat. And mercy, once again, wraps itself around your name. And when you finally turn toward that light, you will feel the atmosphere change. The weight you've carried for years will lift, and the silence around you will sound like peace instead of emptiness. You will know mercy was never chasing you to punish, it was pursuing you to restore. Every wound will begin to close, every regret will lose its voice beneath the sound of grace. The door that once felt distant will open wide, and love will flood in like morning sun through an abandoned window. You'll realize heaven never left it weighted, and as you step through, the world itself will feel softer, lighter. Even the air will seem to whisper your new beginning, reminding you that redemption always arrives quietly but completely. There comes a moment when the hidden ones step into the light. It does not arrive with celebration from the world, but with recognition from heaven. The rise of the chosen is quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. You have been prepared in the shadows for such a time as this. And now the world begins to feel your presence before it sees your face. You can sense the shift. The same places that once rejected you now echo with need for the very voice they silenced. The same rooms that overlooked you will soon realize they were standing next to revelation in disguise. You were never overlooked, you were being concealed. God hides what he intends to reveal at the right time, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. That declaration is not poetic, it is prophetic. You were never meant to stay hidden. Light has no purpose in secrecy. You have endured obscurity long enough. Now heaven unveils what it has invested in you. But this rise will look different from what the world calls success. It will not begin with applause, it will begin with assignment. You are being raised not to be seen, but to serve. The mark of divine elevation is humility. Those who rise for themselves fall quickly, but those who rise for heaven endure. The rise of the chosen is not about status, it's about stewardship. Heaven is entrusting you with influence, with authority, with impact. The same voice that spoke through prophets and dreamers now seeks to echo through your life. Every lesson, every loss, every season of waiting was shaping your sound. You are not just stepping into visibility, you are stepping into responsibility. Your story will become a map for those still wandering. The strength you gained in storms will now shelter others. Your scars will teach compassion. Your endurance will spark courage, and your presence will carry peace. This is how the chosen rise, by lifting others as they ascend. Do not fear the attention that comes with revelation. You are not being exposed, you are being expressed. God is revealing his glory through you. The purpose of your unveiling is not to glorify self, but to magnify truth. You are not called to shine for admiration, but to illuminate direction. When people look at you, they will not see perfection, they will see possibility. It is important to remember that this rise will also draw resistance. With every unveiling comes opposition, but do not mistake conflict for curse. The presence of resistance confirms that you carry relevance. Darkness always notices when light enters the room. The enemy cannot stop your rise, he can only try to distract it. The chosen rise with balance. They walk between humility and authority, gentleness and boldness, service and strength. You will learn to move differently now, to speak with wisdom, to act with grace, to lead without pride. The oil on your life demands discipline. This is not a season for reaction, it's a season for revelation. You may feel unprepared, but that is by design. Heaven delights in using those who lean instead of boast. Your lack becomes proof of His presence. Every time you step forward trembling, you demonstrate faith more powerfully than certainty ever could. The rise of the chosen begins with trembling feet and ends with steady flame. And as you rise, you'll notice that what once intimidated you now inspires you. The same mountains that once seemed unreachable now look like invitations. You've learned that the summit is not the goal. Obedience is. Glory follows the footsteps of those who keep walking, even when the path disappears in fog. The rise is not about leaving others behind. It's about calling them higher. Your elevation is collective. When you rise, so do those who are connected to you. Heaven's promotion always multiplies purpose. You are not being exalted for recognition, you are being positioned for impact. So walk forward gently but confidently. The light within you is ready to speak through action. You no longer need validation to confirm what heaven already decreed. You are rising not to be seen, but to be sent. This is the rise of the chosen, quiet, holy, unstoppable. The time of hiding has ended, and the time of revealing has begun. You carry not only promise but proof. The light that could not be extinguished in darkness now becomes a beacon for the world to see. You will move differently now, no longer chasing doors, but watching them open on their own. Every step forward will feel guided, as if unseen hands are clearing paths ahead of you. The world will wonder how you rose so quietly, unaware that heaven was your stage all along. What they call sudden is simply divine timing revealed. And as you stand in that light, remember your rise is not the end, but the beginning of service. You are proof that hidden seasons birth eternal influence. Eternity does not echo for everyone, it echoes for those who listened, those who obeyed, those who said yes when it would have been easier to hide. You are one of them now. This is the eternal echo, the resonance of obedience that continues long after your voice grows quiet. The sound of your surrender will travel farther than your years, touching lives you will never meet, changing hearts you will never see. The eternal echo is not loud, it's lasting. It hums beneath the noise of the world, steady and sure. It carries the vibration of faithfulness on the frequency of devotion, and when you walk in obedience, every step leaves sound waves in the unseen. Heaven hears them, and creation responds. The universe bends around the will of the obedient, realigning to the rhythm of divine intention. Your obedience is not forgotten, it is recorded. It becomes architecture in eternity, pillars of remembrance built from every act of trust. The prayers you prayed in secret, the sacrifices no one noticed, the love you gave without reward, these are not gone. They echo in places where time cannot reach, continuing to move long after your part in the story seems finished. The voice of God spoke through the prophet once to remind us that nothing done in faith is wasted. Every act of courage, every word of truth, every moment of mercy joins the eternal chorus that keeps light alive in dark ages. You are now part of that chorus. Your life has become melody. It is easy to believe that obedience ends with action, but in truth, it never stops moving. Obedience ripples. It expands. It multiplies. You may never see the full harvest of your faith, but heaven will. The seeds you have sown will sprout in generations yet unborn. Some will walk in freedom because of chains you broke. Some will find healing because of pain you endured. That is the mystery of divine legacy. Your yes outlives you. Think of sound traveling through mountains. It bounces, returns, reshapes, and moves forward again. That is your obedience. Even when the world forgets your name, your sound remains. The eternal echo is what happens when human surrender meets divine permanence. You may never realize how far your light has reached. Someone across the world may be standing because you prayed. A stranger may have found hope because you chose not to quit. The eternal echo turns ordinary moments into eternal monuments. It redeems every tear, every silence, every unseen effort. And this echo is not only sound, it is scent, memory, presence. It lingers. It anoints. When you walk into a room, people may not know why peace follows, but it's because eternity recognizes your sound. You carry the residue of obedience, the fragrance of faith. You are not just a believer, you are a living altar. The eternal echo does not need applause. It needs continuity. Heaven is not looking for noise, it seeks resonance. The chosen are not remembered for their volume, but for their vibration, the quiet constancy of those who kept believing when the world stopped listening. You are now among them. The echo of your faith will be felt when your words are gone. The light in your eyes will inspire when your name is forgotten. Legacy is not built by fame, it's built by faithfulness. Even in silence, you will speak. Even in absence, you will remain. The eternal echo cannot die because it was never made of sound, it was made of spirit. Every heartbeat surrendered to God becomes music that heaven refuses to mute. So walk on, not in pride, but in peace. Know that your life has joined the eternal rhythm of grace. The echo that began when you first believed will never fade. It will move through generations, weaving through destinies, calling others to awaken as you once did. This is the beauty of the chosen, that their obedience becomes eternity's song. And now, heaven whispers your name back to you, not as a reminder of who you were, but as celebration of what you have become. You are not finished. You are fulfilled. The story continues through every life your echo touches. And one day, when you stand before the author of it all, you will hear that same echo return, harmonized by countless souls who found their light because you kept yours burning. And when that moment comes, you will understand that obedience was never loss, it was investment. Every surrender became a seed of glory. Every sacrifice a doorway to something eternal and weightless. The echo of your yes will ripple through eternity, weaving into the stories of those who chose light because you did. You will see your faith multiplied in faces you never met. And as eternity unfolds, your soul will rest in quiet awe, realizing that heaven never forgot a single sound you made in love. The echo remains soft, endless, alive. So here you are, standing at the end of this journey, and yet, it does not feel like an ending at all. It feels like a beginning disguised as farewell. Every word, every whisper that has reached you was never meant to entertain, it was meant to awaken. The call that began as a spark has now become a steady flame inside you. You are the living continuation of what heaven started here. The story does not stop with listening. It continues with living. What you have received must now move through you, touching lives that haven't yet heard this sound. The world is waiting for your obedience, your voice, your quiet yes. You are not just the listener, you are the message now. And if this message has stirred something sacred in you, then let your heart respond in your own language of faith and gratitude. Let your light be a final nod to heaven, a soft echo that says, "I heard." Let your share be the spreading of light, like sparks carried on the wind, finding hearts still lost in shadow. Let your comment be a footprint in eternity, your soul's signature that you were here, present, awake. And let your subscribe be a return, an open gate to walk through again, to grow, to keep journeying with these words until they become your reality. These acts are not demands. They are symbols, simple gestures of belonging. You do not owe them. You offer them. Each one becomes a thread in the tapestry of divine remembrance, a way of saying that what touched your soul will not fade into silence. The journey of the chosen never truly ends. It moves from revelation to action, from hearing to becoming. And as you close this chapter, may your light burn brighter, may your faith walk taller, and may your yes continue to echo long after the words fade.